Third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Only the people are poor. When people didn't have enough to eat, when people were driven to the edge of desperation, there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the bauxite. They have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped. They're overexploited. They're overexploited. They're overexploited.
Good night, everyone, and welcome to tonight's program, The Glenn Lall Show, with your very own publisher of Kaieteur News, Mr. Glenn Lall. I am Kemol King, and I will be your operator for tonight's proceedings. We have with us here my colleague, Mikaila Prince, and tonight we will have a hefty discussion about the management of your natural resources and the rest of your wealth. So without further ado, Mr. Glenn Lall, good night.
Good night.
Good night, good night, good night to all you guys. Kemol, Guyana. Tonight's topic I want to touch on is insurance. Insurance. If you go to the bank for a loan to buy a house or buy a car, you must have full insurance. And you have to pay for it. It's the bank requirement. That's how all banks and money lending institutions operate. It is to protect their investments, their money. Brothers and sisters, wherever you are, I just want to say a special good night to all of you, and I want to thank you for listening to my programs. I am delighted, I'm very happy hearing from so many of you with your texts and your phone calls, how much you're being learned, how much you have learned with whatever I've been saying over the past few weeks on this radio program. Thank you again. You are not going to get upset tonight because I don't plan to upset anybody tonight. I just want you to know that we are not protected in the insurance industry. Guyana began oil production over a year now. We don't have any secure insurance to cover our backs. We are in great, great danger, not for us alone, but for all future generations. Let me begin by pleading with President Ali and opposition leader Joseph Harman and all the MPs of this land. It is more than time that all of you start putting Guyana first and foremost, and not yourselves. All of you have to protect and safeguard the people's wealth of this country. Who owns it? Yes, who owns it? We own it. And they have to help protect us. All of you were entrusted first and foremost by the people to look out for their best interests. It is clear each day that goes by, you guys are not doing that. Start putting technocrats and competent people to run and manage the affairs of this country. Please, I beg you all on behalf of all Guyanese. It is quite evident that all of you are not competent to handle our oil sector. Therefore, it is a must that we find the best technocrats and expertise, whether foreign, regional, or locals, to secure our people their rightful share of their assets. There are a million ways in which Guyana and all of us can be shafted. by these oil players sitting out there in our oil fields. What I'm about to tell you is the most significant of the many ways in which we can become paupers. If it is not fixed or corrected immediately, we are heading for total bankruptcy. Every single Guyanese know about insurance. Insurance is to cover your back if something goes wrong. You don't have it and let your house catch a fire. You will end up begging at the roadside for food to eat. Insurance is key to Guyana's financial future. When you don't know the value of insurance coverage, like I said, you can become a pauper overnight. One of my friends had his house burned down and had no insurance coverage. The only thing he and his family escaped with was the clothes on their back. Them living with family members on to this day, 6 years later, have to start life all over again from scratch. Put yourself in that position and just think about it for a moment. I have also seen a friend business destroyed by fire without insurance coverage. He never recovered and still owing on that fire. Another friend had his business partly covered by insurance. The fire destroyed his neighbor's business too. Guess what happened? The insurance money he collected couldn't put him back in business because the court ordered the insurance money be paid to the neighbor because it was his fault that caused the fire in the first place. That is the value of having a proper insurance coverage. Had he took out unlimited or a full insurance coverage to cover any eventuality, he would have built back his store, be back in business, and his neighbor would have been taken care of too. That is the predicament he finds himself in. Guyana, brothers and sisters, this is the situation our President Irfan Ali and our opposition leader Joseph Harman leading Guyana in. It is even worse than that. Just listen to me carefully as I explain. All over the world, oil companies have to and must give countries unlimited insurance, full insurance to cover any eventualities, any spill, any disaster, any deaths, and so on. It means everything that is affected by the oil operation must be fully compensated by the insurance from the oil companies. So the country is clear and free from any cost or responsibility here in Guyana. Here in Guyana, Lisa 1 has no insurance. Guys, pray to God that we don't have any disaster out there. If not, Guyana and all of us will go bankrupt. Especially if our neighbors is affected by it. Lisa 2 is a good thing we had a man named Vincent Adams. He spot the mistake Guyana made with Exxon, in which they omitted the required insurance for that field, Lisa 1. he was able to tell the oil companies, no, what happened in Lisa 1 cannot happen in Lisa 2. Put y'all acts together and make sure Guyana got unlimited, full insurance coverage for Lisa 2. I was told by him a lot of pussyfooting went on. He faced a lot of resistance to get that done. All kinds of tricks and gimmicks the oil companies tried. Them even wanted to give us a watered-down insurance, exposing Guyana to full bankruptcy. This is what he got for Guyana before he was sent packing off the job. He said he got the local players here in Guyana to give us the best insurance that is provided in the market. He said he knows the local oil people has no assets of their own. None whatsoever they don't have. Therefore, he insisted that the parent companies, listen to this carefully, Vincent Adams insisted that the parent companies, Exxon, Hess, and Sinnock, sign to take the responsibility to cover above and beyond that insurance policy. He said that was the understanding and agreement in which he issued Lisa 2 permit. The man said something like that cannot take more than a day. Not more than a day to sign off. It is 2 years now, and we don't have that document signed by the parent company, Exxon, Hess, and Sinnock. This is telling us that we are not fully insured. The people who runs the operation out there has no assets, like I said. So we can't sue them for anything. We can't get any compensation from them. But settle for the jokey insurance them give us. Guyana is like my friend who lost his store and business and still owes people. If and when a spill occurs and damage Trinidad, Barbados, or any neighboring countries, generations to come will have to pay those people. That's the situation, that's the position we're in right now. We can't sue Exxon, Hess, or Sinnock because them didn't sign to take the additional coverage. They are clear out of the wind. So we are left in the sauce, if you understand what I mean. I hope our leaders are listening. Or one of you guys, please tell them. Please tell them what is happening. Let me try to simplify what I just told you guys. It's like I have 3 grandchildren. I buy a few cars for them and set up a taxi base for them to run the business. The cars have third-party insurance. In case of any accident, and the third-party insurance is a requirement by the police. You must have that. Let's just say one of the car driving to one of the stores on Regent Street, and that fire end up burning down the entire Regent Street. The insurance will only cover the third party. So the little bit money the insurance is covered with, everybody might get $2 each. And them can't sue my grandchildren. They can sue my grandchildren, but they can't sue me. But remember, my grandchildren doesn't own anything. Them have no assets. So they can't get anything. That's where Guyana is. You can't sue Exxon, Hess or Sinop because them didn't sign on to take any further responsibility. So whatever little insurance their subsidiaries here in Guyana sign on to, that is what we will get. That is what we may have to share to other nations who would have pilfered, damaged by any eventuality. When it comes to Lisa 3, which is Payara, Vincent Adams demanded the same full coverage he wanted in Lisa 2 for Payara. Just to protect each and every one of us. You know where we are now, Guyana? Like I said, they removed the man who was protecting Guyana and hand over the project to a Canadian woman for review. That project review, cannot be completed in less than a year. But guess what? The Canadian woman reviewed it in 6 weeks. She said everything is okay. Yeah, I could go ahead. The next day, our government signed and granted that permit. We are yet to get Exxon, Hess, and Sinop, the parent companies, to guarantee Guyana with a full insurance. And in Lisa 2. And now Payara gone and we have no insurance. So this is where we stand, Guyana. This is the dilemma we find ourselves in. We have no insurance whatsoever to protect us and to protect our neighbors. Like I said, we can all go bankrupt, complete bankrupt, in which future generations will have to work all their lives to pay a neighbor, just like my friend who loses his store and he still owes the neighbors. So tonight, I don't want to talk much. I just want to make you guys to make sure you tell our leaders to hear, let's get what can protect us and our future. I'm going to, me and my colleagues, we will be talking on many other topics or stories in which you can join and you can send your questions. The telephone number is?
It's 226-7453. And you can also send me or Mikaila a text message or WhatsApp on 622-2222. You can also leave your comments or questions on the Facebook Live, which I am currently monitoring. Yes. So before we continue the discussion, we'll just have a brief break and then we'll come right back to you. Thank you. We are back with the Glenn Lall Show, and I'm your operator, Kemol King. We're joined here by the man of the hour, Mr. Glenn Lall, and our colleague, Mikaila Prince. So we're going to get right into a fruitful discussion now about the management of, or the safeguarding of the environment at Exxon's operations. Mikaila, over to you.
Thank you, Kemol. To the listeners, let me just give you something that we have shared some information on a few days ago, but I'm just going to bring it up again about produced water. Now, produced water is the water that is extracted from deep underground when you're doing the extraction of the oil. And with industry standards, you're supposed to re-inject that water because it can have some very harmful effects on the environment. What is happening in Guyana, however, is Exxon is dumping all of that produced water into our oceans, and with no studies conducted, we have no idea what the effect of that can be on the ecosystems and the marine life and beach life and all of these other things. The concern does not stop there, however, and it's a story that I wrote on today that you can see in tomorrow's edition of the Kaieteur newspaper, which states that with every time you dump the produced water into the ocean, you're also dumping a percentage of oil into the ocean. Based on Kaieteur News' calculations, with 10 FPSOs, which Exxon is projected to land out there, you will see at least up to 29,000 barrels of oil being dumped into the ocean every year. And that is something that we should all be concerned about. Well, this is just a projection, and this is a projection that was given to us by Dr. Adams, and his projections are assuming that the FPSOs to come will have the same specifications as Liza 1
As the two.
And Liza 2. So that is something that you can read in tomorrow's paper, which it is much more in detail. But we have to do these studies to find out, okay, so this water is being dumped, and you're also dumping all this oil with this water. What is it going to be? What is the effect on the ecosystems and the marine life?
You know, Mikaila, when you think about the fact that ExxonMobil wanted to bring on all of these projects without doing the studies, and you start to examine just what it's doing to the environment, you come to realize that this is what the company didn't want you to know. When they tell you, oh, we're just going to be dumping produced water to international standards, they don't tell you that the produced water is going to have some amount of oil inside. And we rant and rave. This newspaper carries a lot of stories about oil spills and how dangerous and detrimental that can be to the environment. This company not wanting to conduct the requisite studies was just trying to hide from us the detriment that its operations unmanaged can harm our environment.
We had last year, in fact, Mr. Alistair Routledge, the country manager of Exxon Guyana, and he told the press that this produced water will have no effect on the environment. How can you say something like that if you haven't conducted any studies whatsoever?
All right, let me put my little piece in. Produced water, guys, I spoke about it, and let me just give you in a nutshell what it is. Produced water comes up when they bring up your oil. You got three things come up with the oil. Water, that they call produced water, it's extremely hot. Gas, and the oil. The gas, they flare the gas, they burn the gas because it's garbage. They don't want that. They're trying to shove that on us, Guyana, now for our gas to show project. And the water comes up with oil and deadly chemicals. They use chemicals which are extremely dangerous to bring up the oil. So they say when it comes up to the floating ship, it separates. The oil goes into the tank, the water they throw back into the ocean, and the gas they burn. So that is what is called produced water. When they throw that water into the ocean, it It kills every single thing. And now they're planning to do, now they're only doing one. And our fishing industry went down 20%, 30%. As they begin to do other projects in Lease 2 and 3 and the remaining, which they plan to do 10. We are carrying a story tomorrow in which the reporter just said they're expected to dump 29,000 barrels of produced water alone. Of oil.
Yes.
Of oil. That is the spill coming, because when you bring up the water, when you bring up the oil, it spills, plus the produced water. That is extremely deadly, unhealthy for all of us.
Kemol? Yes.
All right, now. So we hope that Exxon would do the study that it has been mandated to do on the Payara project as a result of the permit that the government granted to it last year in September. We know that ExxonMobil has been given just a few months after the Environmental Protection Agency approves its terms of reference to complete the study on produced water, and we expect that that study will be completed this year. One of the things that we have not gotten a commitment from ExxonMobil or the EPA is that corresponding studies would be done on the Liza Phase 1 produced water and the Liza Phase 2 produced water, because it would be nonsensical for you to have one project that's coming up. You're doing a study on that project and you're making the safeguards in that project, but you do not have corresponding safeguards in projects that are already running right now. Because when you count up even Liza Phase 1 and Liza Phase 2 alone, in a few years, it would amount to so many thousands of barrels of produced water being dumped into the ocean. So that's what we have to fight for moving forward.
Yes, but Kemol, let me just add a little piece. I just spoke about a million ways we can get shafted. And just like the insurance, they just doesn't want to sign on or to give us that full coverage. This study they were supposed to pay for and get that done before they even begin to produce oil. But this is another one that has to add to the list of things where they're not doing what they were supposed to do.
One criticism I want to make is, I don't understand the rationale behind handing out the approval before having the study done, before getting all your ducks in a row. Why hand out the permit first?
I can explain that. Exxon is on the go to rape and to take whatever they can take without having to pay for all these studies. If they bring these studies in the open, it means that we will be reporting on them. We will be putting restrictions on them. So they don't want no restrictions. So anything they will do to hide all their faults, just to take us for a ride. That's exactly what's happening.
Okay, now let us move on a little to an issue I've been reading about, not writing about, the management of the asphalt plant. And this is something that had been in the works since the last administration. And we have the former Minister of Public Infrastructure, David Patterson, who is in his own controversy too right now. We'll talk about that later, with the current Minister of Public Works, Mr. Edgehill, Bishop Edgehill. And Mr. Patterson had claimed that the asphalt plant at Garden of Eden, East Bank, Demerara is fully operational. But the current minister, Mr. Juan Edgehill, had informed us that there are several systems that are not functioning with the asphalt plant, including the burner system and the scale and the granulate system. And what I am trying to understand is why, first of all, a minister would claim that a plant that is operated by an agency under his jurisdiction is functional when it's not operational. So the first thing we have to look at right now is whether that minister in question, the former minister, was even concerned about whether the agencies under his remit were operating at their best.
That asphalt plant, I spoke briefly on it during my Friday night program with the corruption there. And I can repeat it just in case you missed what I said. One of the things they do, they say the scale. For those who doesn't know what's an asphalt plant, is a plant that makes the bitumen to pitch the roads, our roads. And that plant has a scale, and they say it broke down. And the neighbor has one. These things I have to laugh. The neighbor have one scale in which you only have to pay $3,000 to weigh the trucks as they come out. But they're not weighing by the neighbor. They're driving 10 miles from Garden of Eden to the Harbour Bridge to weigh the truck. I said by the time they reach Harbour Bridge, 3/4 of the asphalt plant already disappear, and they're weighing 1/4. That's the way these guys been running the asphalt plant. So the operations of it were only going to them. And I am so happy that today I am told that they charge David Patterson and the head of the Harbour Bridge, Adams, for fraud. Fraud of the feasibility study done with the new Harbour Bridge. They took the asphalt plant money and spent it, I am told, without any authorization. So I was so happy when I heard that. I say, well, maybe somebody is waking up in this land. It's in the Kaieteur News tomorrow, just in case you want to read the full story on it.
Just to add to what you said there, Mr. Lall, on the asphalt plant, Minister Edgell had appointed a special team to do an investigation into this very plant, and they found some very shocking details. One, for example, is that the asphalt plant spent $71 million in transportation in 5 years when it could have purchased its own vehicle.
Wow.
For that same money.
Wow.
One of the many things that was highlighted in that report. Also, there was no cap on how much asphalt you could credit from the plant. So you could go and you could say, I want this amount, and you don't have to pay down, and that would run up and just climb up for years. And I'm pretty sure that they have contractors who still owe them millions of dollars for asphalt that they would have credited from them.
That's right. They run it like if it's a personal business.
Yeah.
You know, anybody can come and go, take it. You know, this is why I'm saying that some of the things our leaders doing, they should be locked away behind bars for life. You know, they're running our money, our businesses as if them own it. You talk about the jewelry they buy. Tonight I don't want to talk about that. I just don't want to upset anybody tonight. I'm being nice tonight. I'm gonna have between Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm yet to decide. Maybe tomorrow I'll decide whether I want to do a corruption program. Instead of talking about our oil industry, which is great, which is the biggest thing now, I'd be dealing one day a week with only corruption, pure corruption, because corruption has to stop, and it has to start somewhere. And I have decided, having chat with so many people over the weekend with my Friday nights program with Christopher Ram. They say, Glenn, you must have a corruption program every week. at least one time. So I'm to decide which day I'm going to talk about it, because there's so much to talk about corruption. There's so much to talk about things that isn't right, isn't going right, things what's supposed to be done and not getting it done. So we'll get there. We'll get into it.
Mr. Lall, just on the comment that you made about the gifts, because when we talked about it first in the office, when the reporter was telling us during the meeting the other day, it was so absurd for us because, okay, a minister might get a gift, but when you heard the types of things that they're getting, like a bed and iPad, it was so absurd that it made you laugh. I think that's a lot of how the public would react to when you talk about or read about this issue.
Yes, when you go in, when you read these things, when these things come out in the open air, you want to know it. You want to know if these leaders going in there to furnish their house, and full their bank books, and it is evident. I know about this from day one. When what they do with the money, how they hide it, how they tuck it, what they do. They build fancy homes, driving fancy vehicles, tuck it in their brother's name, their sister's name, their aunts, uncle, cousins. This is what they do. You understand? And there's no shame in some of them. None shame whatsoever. It is so disgusting. But I don't want to get down into that. Please, let me get going.
All right. Just to bring us back
tonight.
briefly to what we were talking about, the former minister and the former Harbour Bridge boss getting charged. If you would comment, Mr. Lall, on the fact that there was a demonstration outside as well with some supporters of the APNU AFC, including former ministers and so on. And they are alleging, just like the lawyers did when they spoke to the press, that the charges seem political in nature. What say you?
That's a lovely question. Every time it is a trend. Every time somebody gets charged, some party member get charged, it's political, it's vindictive. They're going after this individual because he's a PNC, or because he's a AFC, or because he's a PPP. The PPP did the same thing. When Ashley Singh and Brassington get charged, what happened? They run out and say, "Hey, it's vindictive." This has been a slogan all the time. It's in the U.S. right now between the Democrats and the Republicans. And this is what they do. They just come out and they rush out to show support in defense of these immoral and wrong things. But get them to speak, get them to come out on issues of Guyana doesn't have an insurance to protect them. You never hear a word from them. None of them. But charge one of them for stealing or allegedly stealing something. They're ready to support in the courts. So it's like it's a bunch of cabals, in the PPP, the PNC, and the AFC that they're ready to rally around their colleagues. Or their colleagues are always right, never wrong.
Mr. Lall, yes, this happens too in some other countries, but sometimes I see in some of the more developed countries, sometimes these politicians actually do stand up against their ilk. Like, for example, I know a lot of the Republicans would have supported Trump and what he has done through his tenure. But coming down to when he incited that riot at Capitol Hill, a lot of them turned around and they decided that they would speak out against it. And I'm not sure that we have ever, well, you would have more knowledge than me, being in the profession so long. Did we ever have such a situation in Guyana where a politician has gone the wrong way and his colleagues would have turned around and said, you're wrong, and publicly spoken out against it?
It happens all over the world. If you ask each and every one of those Republicans who supported Trump, voted for him, they didn't appreciate. They didn't like that. But just to secure their position in that Senate chair, they would not only turn their eyes or change their mouth, they would even turn around and say, listen, no, I support him because he is the leader and he can put them out of their seats.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. Everybody rally around each other because they also have secrets for each other. You understand what I'm saying? So when you see these leaders run out behind their colleagues, it's secrets they have for each other. So they have to protect each other. And this is the dilemma. Nations falling.
Yeah, but what I wanted to know if in Guyana we have ever had a situation where somebody from one party have stood up against somebody in their other party for doing something wrong.
Very rare. Very, very, very rare that ever happened. They're caught red-handed and they still support them. Because remember, they have secrets for each other.
Yeah.
Right? And when you have secrets for each other, you will not go against your fellow colleague.
Okay. Before we continue on to the next topic, I have some people asking the same question here. Why not invite ExxonMobil on your program, Mr. Lall?
Yeah, that's a beautiful, that's a beauty. I would love ExxonMobil, Hess, Sinnoh, and every one of their subsidiaries, their partners, to come on the radio. I want every politician to come on the radio. I am not chasing anybody. I am begging them to come. I would like them same people who asked the question to beg them to come on the radio. Let's sit and let's talk. Let's have a frank discussion. This program was initiated by me to have a frank discussion on what's taking place in Guyana, what's happening with our resources, how it's being handled, whose hands it's going into, what share are we getting as to what we're giving away in our gold and our bauxite and oil and every other sector. I want them to come. Yes. I am pleading with you guys, any one of you, hear me clear, Kemol, every single one of you, I want you guys to come on board. Come and sit down. You don't have to give us 10 days notice. Call and say, listen, Lall, I want to come on your program tonight, and I will make myself available to sit down and let's have this frank discussion on our assets.
You know, Mr. Lall, talking about our assets and the management of it, we somehow, well, not forgetting, but I feel like we should be spending more time on what is happening right here in the city sometimes, where we have a story today in the paper saying that a coalition MP collected $5.7 million for the construction of a pig pen. And it's still to be completed, and he did this business by using an unregistered company.
Wow. You guys hear what the reporter said? An MP was paid $7.6 million to renovate a pig pen. He collected the money on an unregistered corporation. And the pig pen is still nowhere. As a matter of fact, today we discussed a story in which we are carrying under that same government project.
SLED program.
They give another guy $2 million to do a chicken pen this time, not a pig pen. You hear what's going on? A chicken pen. That story is in Kaieteur News tomorrow. And when the minister went and checked to see what's happening with the project, the man is overseas, which tells me he collect the money and he disappear with it, and the chicken pen is yet to be built. So these kind of things that's happening, and I don't know where is the end. And unless we jail these people, like I said last week Friday, we are not going to get anywhere. They're jailing the wrong set of people.
It raises some questions for me, Mr. Lall, that I wonder if the ministry is looking at right now. you can receive some money, yes, but I want to know who are the project managers of this flood initiative who failed to do the due diligence on this applicant and decided to give them the money to do what they wanted to do and then did not follow up properly on the execution of the program. Those people they have to put before the courts.
Government only want to show the nation that they care and they're doing this and they're doing that for you, but the project is going into their friends and family hands. So it's one big circle they're going around with. Look, I'll be looking at some of the contracts whose hands it falling into. And that's what has been happening for years. Year come, this is happening. And we have to start exposing these things. I have been writing about these things for 26 years in the newspapers. So I know it. I know every aspect of how they go about doing these projects.
You talk about the contracts there, Mr. Lall, and these projects that we have here is 2 million and a 5 million, and it's still money. But when you compare it to these multi-million-dollar contracts that you're handing out to BK and Courtney Ben, people who've gotten millions of dollars in advances,
Or sometimes hundreds of
millions in advances since 2018, 2019, and to date, contracts cannot be completed. What happening? You using up. We had a case the other day with a construction of a city fence in Region 2 that was handed since late 2019, was supposed to be completed in August of last year. At January 7th of this year, when the minister visited, not even 15% of the works had been initiated, and 70% of the contracts had already been advanced to BK International. Then you hear of stories of, the minister asked me to focus my resources on this other place, and a lot of excuses. These contractors who are getting taxpayers' hard-earned money need to be held accountable.
Every single project, they just come up with this project, they sleep and wake up and say, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that. Give Glenn this, give Kemol this, give Shakima this, give Raj this project, and they just give the money.
All right, hold that thought. I think we have a caller on the line. Hi, caller. You're on Kaieteur Radio.
Good night, Kemol.
Hi.
And
What-
the panel here, Mr. Grant.
Good night.
Yes, sir. What I find very distasteful is that Mr. Green ain't coming out with all these things happening under his nose. He come out and say a thing about the minister and the asphalt plan. And he says, right, you could remember Mr. Kemol. You could remember when Ali had a big salary raising,
Yes.
and they said there wouldn't be no corruption, then this is why they're raising all the big super salary, the fat cat salary. Yes,
Right.
and look, all these happening, and Mr. Green ain't coming out and say anything about that. I feel more bad about it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, he talked about raising the salaries of the ministers
As to avoid
to
corruption.
avoid corruption.
And then we're finding widespread corruption.
Yes, and they raise it, and they said they don't want the ministers to go thief. One of the ministers said, Glenn, our salary or the money we work for is much more than that. We have to take home money to look after our family. We are accustomed to that. And a minister's salary is $100,000 or $200,000. They can't work for that. And this is why they support an increase. But they get the $1 million and $2 million salary, and instead the corruption decrease, it increase. It looked like every year that goes by, corruption just keep doubling. It's not reducing. So the more salary that they take for themselves is more corruption.
I wanted to respond to what the caller said about being surprised that Mr. Granger is not coming out at this time. You would expect hope for Mr. Granger to come out and make a comment about all the widespread corruption we're unearthing that happened under his tenure, but the former president was not even coming out for the majority of the time when the corruption was unearthed while he was in office. So I don't see why you would expect him to come out now.
No, I think they will come out. We have to work on getting them out to come and sit down. And let's be frank, this country cannot continue to run the way it has been running for the last 30 years. It should not. Nobody should sit down and allow this country to continue going down the pathway the way it used to. No, we should not. At least I don't intend to allow that. I will speak every day on it. I have to make a change. We all have to contribute towards making that change.
All right. We have another question here on the Facebook Live. Why is the diaspora not involved in the decision-making process? We always talk about how we have a lot of people leaving and getting themselves educated, but those people are not involved a lot, or they seem not to be involved in our decision-making, because we are bringing in a lot of foreign experts to help us build the infrastructure for our oil and gas sector. What do you think, Mr. Lall?
Well, I totally agree with him. There are lots of trained experts in the oil and gas field that are Guyanese out there. Our government need to seek them out and get them back here. I'm certain that they would want to come back to help. This is their land. The question is, our leaders wants that?
Okay, we have another call on the line. Sorry to cut you, Mr. Lall. Hi, caller.
Hi, good night. You know, one thing I listen to you guys program, Glenn got a very powerful voice in that country. And you know what? Glenn do a very great job. Secondly, I want to mention something. All the minister, all the big people in politics, right? They can get duty-free car. They must tell Guyanese people must go back from America and develop Guyana. But they never said Guyanese must get duty-free car like four-door car for carrying. Because remember, Guyanese live luxury life America. And if they come to Guyana, what kind of life they going to live?
I hear
There's
you.
no life for them.
I hear
the
you.
Guyanese need to take them vehicle and God for coming Guyana for live. Right? Secondly, again, so much of bandit rain and nobody put down their foot on the bandit them. A lot of people get hurt, innocent people from black to Indian to Bokmanal. So I would like for Glenn Lall shine some light on those things for me. About the four-door vehicle. What Guyanese ask Guyanese to come back America, Guyana, and they can't bring in a vehicle duty-free. If they charge $200,000, the country will get money.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a valid and a very nice question. I want to add a little more to what you say there. They have changed the migrant status, and now our brothers and sisters wants to come home has to pay. You have to pay. I think they're giving you a percentage off on your household stuff and vehicles. What is even more damning than that is that all these foreign oil companies, all these foreign gold companies, bauxite companies, diamond, timber companies, they are given duty-free concessions on every single piece of equipment and machinery that comes to Guyana. And if our Guyanese brothers and sisters who wants to come back here to go into the gold or the oil field, they have to pay all the duties and taxes that is required by GRA. So it is even more sickening, my friend. It's unequal is not even a word. It's like we are paying these foreigners to come here and rape us and rob us and to take away every single thing from us. So this is something they have to look at.
We have another caller on the line.
Good night, caller.
Hi, good night, my brother. Am I on to the Glenn Lall show?
You
Yes.
are.
All right. I just want to make this very short and sweet. And I hope the president and the vice president and every one of the government people is listening to this. when a regular person like me and you, right, do something very wrong, or even now we don't do nothing wrong, we get arrested, we got to go to court, we get put on bail, and all these things. I just heard Lall was talking about some guy took money without authorization, right?
Mhm.
And for the new harbor bridge. And what is the president doing about it? These people need to be held accountable to the fullest, prosecuted, and let them spend hard time in prison, just like me and you, brother.
I hear you, brother. I hear
You
you.
understand?
Yeah.
I'm not siding for PPP. I'm not siding for PNC. I'm not siding for nobody. If you do the crime, you need to do the time.
Lovely.
There is no if and but about it. Mr. President, if you're listening to this, put your foot down, because you will not be going back in there another 4 years from now.
Thank you, guy. Thank you. I fully support and agree.
I just want to say you are doing an amazing job, Glenn, and you are supporting the poor people. You is the voice. I'm a Guyanese, and when I see you are standing up for the poor people of Guyana, all people in Guyana, it breaks my heart for know the country have a new president now, and he's not doing what he's supposed to do for the poor people of Guyana.
Well, I would say that he just got in a couple of days. Let's give him a few more morning, and let's see what action he will take on some of the many wrongs that has been going on and continue to go on in our country.
Thank you, Carl.
But thanks,
one thing
thanks for your sentiments too. I have been.
Can I say one thing more before I go?
Yeah.
What is the government, and I'm coming back to the president again, what is he doing about ExxonMobil? And I'm saying this, and I'm going to say this very loud and clear, and I gone. Listen. No matter how much money Guyana have, no matter how much wealth Guyana have, right? If you don't get rid of the corruption, and the corruption is in the government, if you don't get rid of that, the country will never move 1 foot forward.
That's right.
That's all. You guys have a blessed night. Stay safe, stay warm. And brother, thank you for doing your job. Keep fighting, and something going to happen.
I hear you. Thank you. God bless too. The guy,
He was spot on.
Yeah.
he just is exactly what we are talking.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to let him know that I've been in this business 26 years, and I have seen enough not to keep my mouth shut anymore. I can't take it. Just like him, I could hear him. Just can't take it anymore.
I really agree with his comment about jailing these corrupt politicians, because so much has happened over the years, and it's the precedent that we set that if you do something wrong, nothing's going to happen to you, that gives them the freedom and the latitude to go in there and feel like they can do anything.
You know, this morning I walk in the office and I picked up the Guyana Chronicle, and I saw a headline there about eight member from Dubai came to Guyana, and they had a meeting with the president and about investing in Guyana. I looked at it and I smiled. I'm like, wow, these people, they talk about coming in here for agriculture, for sugar, for rice, and oil and gas, you know? And when you read the story, in it, I am seeing exactly what Mr. Jack Dave is touting all the time, like I said earlier. Only jobs, only jobs, only jobs. Only jobs them a come here for give we. You know? It's so sickening. You got men coming here, and first thing they will do is give away your land. They give away your land for free. And they're not coming for sugar. They're not coming for your rice. They are not coming for soya beans and all these things that they're talking about. Their main objective is to come here to get a piece of the pie from your oil. And they continue to talk this damn nonsense every day. Jobs, so much jobs. They said 10,000 jobs will be created. I have been hearing creation of jobs for the last 30 years from one government to another. This is what they fool the nation by telling them, and everybody, we can get jobs, and they continue to do that. You know, I've not seen that story in. We haven't carried that story. I've not seen that story in the other newspapers, but in the Chronicle. You know, it's like they're hiding these things from us now. They're doing secret deals behind the people's back. Nobody reads the Chronicle, and they wouldn't invite you to come and see, because they know that we will go ask them straight, hard questions in the face. You think we're fools to believe that you come in here to plant rice and cut cane? Come on, guys, don't do this to us.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Lall, and to the viewers and listeners that stayed with us for the entire hour. We're very grateful for your presence.
We don't want more questions. See if we get any more questions. We can argue still. We have the time.
We have a call.
We have a caller on the line? No, I think we lost that caller. Okay. A caller on the line? All right, let's go. Good night, caller.
Is he on the line?
Have we lost you, caller?
He's.
All right, cut.
I think we lost our caller.
All right.
That's unfortunate. Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Lall now to give his closing comments.
Kemol, brothers and sisters, our leaders have the power. They have the power that they have been trusted with. And I believe they must act now. They must act tonight and correct this oversight, which I have clearly spelled out in this program. Insurance, insurance, insurance is a clear and must. Guyana must have that. It is the most important thing to every single one of us in this country. So please, leaders, correct it, fix it. It must be done, and let it be done tomorrow. God bless you all, and do have a great night. Thank you.
I think we're done.